Good afternoon, students. Thank you very much for availing your time for this crucial presentation of Mathematics 41 or Mathematics 42, which is learner support in mathematics. How are we going to support our learners in our favorite subject? My name is Miss Shikongo Loide, it's my name. So my number is 081-2009-524. I prefer you reaching me on WhatsApp in case you have a question, a clarity, or problem. Yeah, WhatsApp will be much better, or you can give me a text. As long as you indicate that you are an IOL student, then I'll come back to you. You can reach me from 3 o'clock up to 7 in the evening. All right, let's start. Welcome to this crucial module. This is an interesting module where we learn different theories and approaches to the successful teaching of our subject, mathematics. The focus is important as learning teachers. The way we learn will determine how our learners will learn as well. So if the way we learn is difficult, obviously our learners will also find it difficult to learn because we are going to teach them from our experience. I trust that you are learning and working very hard to support your senior students, especially those who are teachers already. And the module is divided into exciting units to give you a chance to interact with your learners, how to help them within decimal, for example, fractions, and other things related to mathematics. Unit 1 is about key issues underpinning the learning support. What is learner support? This is the backbone. The subject said learner support in mathematics. This refers to the strategies used by the teachers in the classroom to address issues of diversity in the mathematics class and approaches that can use to successfully help every child to reach mathematics literacy. The most hating thing is receiving a learner. Imagine you are teaching grade 5 and that learner cannot differentiate between 5 and 8, for example. That is because the literacy was not fully developed from the beginning. You should not transfer the same learner from grade 5 to 7. Make sure that then you do your part. And this is the subject that will guide you on how to do that very well. Students identified as having specific learning disability. Which learners need support? Different cultural backgrounds, different language, learners who are English language learners. You know, we are teaching our subject in English and it's not comfortable to everyone. To most of us, it's not. The concept that we learn in mathematics, they are so much far away from the one that we know in our daily lives. So we have to consider those as learners who need your support. Students who are mathematically gifted, and this is where we ignore them and deprive them and disadvantage them from advancing in mathematics so much. The support can be either physical, cognitive, or emotional. Do not just look at the cognitive one, how smart a learner is, or how well or how not a learner can do mathematics. Look at other things, emotions. Why are they not good at mathematics? Why? The physical one. Physical, just look at the body. If the child is not comfortable with the type of clothing that is putting on, that child will not concentrate and not be able to pass the subject as well. So then these are the learners that you need to support. If you can be able to buy a uniform, do that. Then you see your learner smiling and performing very well in your subject. Okay, emotions, listen to the learner. If they said I did not eat, there are so many social problems out there that learners bring in the class that will not that will prevent them from concentrating and learning better. Okay, the support that you give is crucial for how these learners will learn mathematics. Use a wide range of different ways of helping these learners. Why should you use different ways? It motivates learners. It improves their learning skills. It provides variety. It enables them to learn things more quickly. Do not just use the same method every time, every day. Use different ways. Motivate, different ways of motivating. Do you use stars perhaps? Do you buy them pencils or pen? Do you give competitions maybe? What type of motivation do you use for your learners to advance and learn the subject? Those are the support that they need so much. Okay, motivation. How do you motivate your learners to learn? Motivation is generally defined as something that energizes and directs behavior. What is that originally causes a learner to initiate and be interested in learning? What causes a learner to move towards a particular goal? What will cause the learner to persist in attempts to reach a particular goal? How are you motivating your learner from getting D's to getting A's? How are you motivating your learner from being a C student to a B student and to an A star student? Okay, how can we enhance understanding and retrieval of information? Provide repetition, review, and of the information when you are teaching. Do you repeat what you taught yesterday to again tomorrow? Just 5 minutes. Do you review? Do you focus on the meaning and not on the memorization? Do you use effective practice as a deliberate on purpose? Effective practice, how effective is your teaching to those learners? These are the support and these are the type of motivation that you must encourage in your class. How can a teacher coach upper primary learners on preparing for and writing examination in mathematics? Now that you have done some contents, you taught fractions, decimals, ratios, graphs, statistics, arithmetic. Now, how do you coach your learners and prepare them very well for the examination? Encourage the learners to improve comprehension by consulting a variety of texts and devoting at least 30 minutes a day to doing exercises at home. Mathematics should be given a homework. Every day, learners must receive a homework. Okay, that is in the mathematics policy. Okay, read your policies very well. When you go to become teachers, it is there. Provide children with a good environment for homework and studying. Encourage them. Where do you do their homework? If they stay closer to a library, encourage them to go to a library. Encourage them to do their homework in groups also. Use selected class exercises and text materials to create sample questions for learners to practice. Use past question papers. How do these questions go on internet? Google. How different can I ask this same concept? You can also help the learners to complete mathematics review worksheets from a variety of websites. Advise learners to take care of their mental health and physical conditions a few weeks before the exam. Make a routine study time to work on examples done in class time by time. Give learners specific page numbers they should review for the exam. Since they are still young, especially if you are teaching grade 4, you can say, no, our exam will not cover the whole term 1 that you have done. We do not cover the whole of term 1 and term 2. Give them topics that you are focusing on because they are still young and small to read the whole textbooks. It's not wrong to do that. Do not just give them specific questions that will be in the examination. Just give them a topic. Data handling, that is part of our our exam. Statistics, that is part of our exam. Money and finance, that is part of our exam. Then they'll focus on that. The second unit is about methods and techniques which support special needs in learning. How can we teach with justification? Now, mathematics is something that is so difficult to explain to the understanding of the learners. Now since we have our cognitive abilities have grown, it's difficult for us to learn and understand much better. But for the young ones, it's difficult. How do we teach with understanding? Two types of understanding. We have relational understanding and instrumental understanding. Relational understanding implying knowing what to do and why. And instrumental implies knowing rules without reasons. And most of us, we are instrumental teachers. We only teach rules. Step number 1, step number 2, step number 3. As to why we are doing that, we don't. So then if it's possible, you must try that. You must try that. Okay? When I was in my high tertiary education, when we learned calculus, differentiation and integration, those things, we asked our lecturer, where do we use this thing in reality? And it was amazing when this teacher brought a video of calculus in reality. Imagine if you are, it's so there, but you don't see it, that somebody somewhere somehow differentiated so that he can come up with this thing. When farmers, especially when they are testing the durability of the seed, if this seed strong or weak, they use calculus. The constructions, when they construct a bridge, for it to be a curve that cars will be able to go on and slide nicely without causing any accident, they use calculus. It was so amazing to see how this, if you are able to do that, if learners are asking where do we use algebra, for example, maybe grade 7, you are teaching them X and Y's, Google, compile a video and let them watch. If it's possible, then you see it's there. If you Google it, it's there, it will show, and the learners will open up and be able to know why these things are like the way they are. For example, area of a rectangle, we just teach length times breadth, but as to why, we don't do it. It's time now that we teach the reasons. When dividing by a fraction, we only say 10 upside down, multiply with a reciprocal, that's it. Change division into a multiplication, but as to why, we don't. The circumference of the circle is pi times diameter. As to why, we don't. All these are instrumental understanding. They have no reason. But if you justify mathematics, if you give a reason why, then mathematics will become so real, and learners will be able to know the reason why they are learning mathematics. Okay? Then what are the reasons for using different approaches? If you want to teach with understanding, we have to teach using different methods. Teachers have an obligation to make the mathematics they teach interesting and understandable, especially to the less able learners. Different ways, then they will be able to understand much better. Different learners have different abilities, backgrounds, and interests. We know that. Different stages in learning process requires different strategies. Your first chapter, the way you teach your first chapter will not be the same as you teach the last chapter. Not at all. Because now the learners have grown, they will understand much better. Not like you are just beginning. There are so many reasons why learners are doing so bad. There are many learning difficulties. Problem solving. Learners with special needs often find it difficult to choose an appropriate strategy to solve problem difficult. They are expected to know the basic facts on mathematics and to use them to solve given problems. So in this case, not everyone is gifted. I understand that. So then their abilities to solve a problem can be determined by their special needs. How do we meet with those special needs? We have covered it there. I said, look at the physical one. Is it emotional? Is it cognitive? And so on. Language difficulties. Mathematics has its own language and is very abstract. Although mathematics gets its power from its language, it also makes it very difficult. Changing the symbol slightly completely changes the meaning of a mathematical statement. If I write 2 plus 4 is equal to 8, then I write 2 plus 4 is less than 10. These two statements are totally different and they have different meanings. We only change these two symbols, and we change these two symbols as well, 8 and 10. That impacted already the way we understand it. Okay, this one, what does it mean? And this, the next one, what does it mean? So in this case, the way we compute or we talk about mathematics language, our language that we use in the class, do the learners understand what we are saying, or we are speaking to them maybe in another language? Developmental nature of mathematics. What is learned in mathematics depends on the prerequisites that were learned before. Mathematics built on previous knowledge. It is essential for learners to remember the previous work for them to advance in mathematics. That is one thing that I always say, that mathematics build on each other. Even if you are doing mathematics 5, for example, don't forget the one that you did in mathematics 3 and mathematics 4. When you go to mathematics 5, don't forget what you did in mathematics 1, even mathematics 2. It builds on. Once there is a gap there, that gap will be difficult to be filled with understanding. That's why sometimes you get lost. You don't know what the teacher is talking about because you missed out something. All right? Now, when it comes to the language of mathematics, look at these words. A root. A root is this. This is the root. To be specific, it's a square root. But do learners use this at home? When you are referring to a root at home, do you refer to this symbol? Not at all. To them, that is the part of the plant that enter it in the ground. But in mathematics, it's something else. X's. What are the X's? Y axis, X axis, Y axis. Now what is that? Do we know what an X is? Before we come to learn mathematics, do we really know that an X is this thing? Before we come to school? No, we only learned about it in grade 8. That's why we learn about the X's. But at home, it's an X. Represent the part, the instrument or the equipment to cut down trees. Product, a term. A product in mathematics is something, the answer you get from multiplication. And then it have another meaning in everyday use. A term, talking about a term, we only refer to terms in a semester, term 1, term 2 in a year. But a term, we do not refer to them as 2x plus 4 as 2 terms. Then if you say plus 3y become 3 terms, then you are talking about something completely that they cannot really understand. What is that? Represent and stand for. What does it mean to represent? Represent what? Represent this thing in a diagram. Stand for, it stand for. Are some of the words in mathematics that may confuse the learners. Consider this. In the meeting, my uncle represented the family and X represents the length of the line in centimeters. Also, N stands for the number of oranges. Some of the words of comparison in mathematics can cause difficulties for the learners. They include more, less, altogether, shorter, longer, higher, lower, thinner, thicker, fewer, and many other words that bring so much confusing. The language of mathematics is so complex, abstract, that if you don't teach them with understanding, they will just be confused. The third unit is evaluation of general learning support in the lesson. Factors to consider when planning a lesson. For effective understanding of a lesson, you need to plan your lesson very well. Do you consider learners' previous knowledge, materials that you are going to use, ability and experience, difficulties learning and the teaching of the topic? You must prepare well in advance so that you not pause and say, wait a minute, I don't know. You will get stuck if you did not prepare well in advance. Class organization. How do you teach your learners? I know most of the classes are just in groups, but are they arranged in groups so that you want learners to use in groups, or as a class arrangement? Okay, as a whole class, how do you teach? We normally teach them as a whole. Everybody is listening. Do you teach them in groups, or do you go to everyone that you think is left behind? So then, for a effective lesson and general support in the lesson, these are some of the things that you have to consider. Learners wrote answers and rational answers to questions. How do we take the learner's answers? 4 plus 5, a learner will say 9. Or maybe the other one will say 20. Now, how do we take those two answers? Rote answers, they are responses given by the learners to questions without thinking, no meaning, and without reasoning. These are answers that are quick. They may be correct, but cannot be justified. These answers have no substance in them because they lack the reasoning to why they are given. Sometimes learners, they just give answers because they guess. If you try to explain now, they will not be, or ask them to explain, they won't be able to explain anything because their answers were just rote, without any meaning. Rational answers, on the other hand, these are responses that bear qualities of relational understanding, given after some thought, and they are justified and are given with reasoning and meaning. That's why when we pose a question, we must wait for learners to think, not just hurry up, give me the answer. Learners need to think so that they will be able to give you reasons. Okay, build on children's understanding to one-on-one correspondence. They review, recall, and recognize the information learned. They demonstrate understanding of material. They review application and the use of information. They use and review the use of their critical thinking. So then you should know, why is this learner just giving me rote answers every day? Who are these learners giving me rational answers? Okay, do not just ignore the type of answers learners are giving you. They give you so much information as the teacher. Let's look at the questioning in the mathematics class. Which question should you ask now? Review previous work and link it to the goals of the lesson. I think this is what most of the teachers do. They always ask about what was learned the previous day. Help the learners learn. Evaluate the progress of the lesson. Control and organize the class. Enable learners to overcome the difficulties. This is some of the reasons why we ask the learners. In most cases, if you see that this learner is not concentrating, you ask him a question, then you see you are not listening at all. Okay, they also organize the class. Sometimes if they have their mini meetings and then you pose the question, they will be quiet so that they'll be able, or maybe they will be scared for you to point them to give the answers while they were not even concentrating. These are some of the type of the questions. Recurring questions, they just need to recall. Convergent thinking, divergent thinking, comprehension thinking, critical thinking, and evaluation questions. So then go in your study guide and see the difference between this type of questions and how you can apply them in your class. The fourth unit is about the fundamental concepts and the skills in mathematics. The main concept here on focus is comparing. What is comparing? How do we compare? Why is it so important in life? Comparing involves the ability of children to relate physical materials and pictures to mathematical ideas. So they want to link between the physical material or the picture to the mathematic idea. If you know what a cuboid is, you're talking about a cuboid. What comes in the mind of the learner? They'll think about a cupboard. They'll think about a book. They'll think about other shapes that are in the form of a cuboid, a cornflakes box, a Weet-Bix box, so many others. If you talk about a cylinder and the learners know what a cylinder is, they'll think about a bottle, a lot of materials that are linked to that idea. It involves understanding the attribute of length, capacity, weight, area, volume, time, and temperature. It involves developing the process of measurement. It involves using division to make comparison between two quantities. So then comparison can be small and large, big and little, long, short, tall, fatty skin, heavy, light, fast, slow, hot, cold. All those words here, they are comparing quantities. And how do we use them? Depend on how well we are teaching them, the learners, with understanding, relational or understanding. Then the next part, fractions, which is quite a major difficulty in mathematics as well. What materials and activity can be used by a teacher to teach primary learners part, whole relationships as a bridge to understanding fractions? If you look at if you go in your study guide, there are a lot of information on these fractions. A hot dog cut in 5 equal pieces. What is that? Does it display part whole or fraction as a ratio, as an operator? There are so many things involved when it comes to fractions. So too bad part of this game is missing. What are we referring to? No, we won't cut the carrot. Everybody gets a whole carrot. What part of mathematics, fractions, to be specific, can you see there? We have only one apple. Let's divide it up. Use broken toys or pictures of broken toys. Ask, what is missing from these toys? Play games. What is missing? Just to help them, learners, understand what fractions are. Not just to see fractions or to hear fractions in the class, but they should be able to experience it. They should know that if a toy is missing, maybe a doll is missing one arm, that means a part of something. A fraction is a part of a whole. That leg was part of that whole, and once it's missing, it's not whole anymore. If you remove one piece, then that item is not whole again. Unit 5 is about applying concepts and skills. Let's look at the definition of this thing. Mathematics is one of the science of patterns and order, according to this author. It is a science of concepts and process that have a pattern of regularity and logical order. The process of exploring and finding this regularity or order and making sense of it in doing mathematics. Then we have these 3 main and very important concepts: ordering, seriation, and patterning. Ordering involves comparing 2 things or 2 groups. Seriation means what? Ordering in groups of 1 or more items. Patterning involves making a discovery in an auditory, visual, or a motor regularities. It involves placing order by color, numbers. In most cases, this is what learners do in their CDC centers or pre-primary. They order, they seriate, and they pattern. It's just a matter of developing them again there when they reach senior primary. Then we look at the naturalistic activities for patterning. Naturalistic, which nature, things in nature that learners use for patterning. Learners children's thought, they often put the items in rows or arrange them in patterns. It could be collecting blocks, picking up different blocks of different colors, making patterns. This is a cup, spoon, use word like first, middle, last, draw pictures like mother, father, children, and places them in rows from the smallest to the largest. These are the things that small children do in when they grow up. These things just need to be developed further. As I said, mathematics is intertwined. Once you there's a gap in your learning from basic mathematics. If you lack some basic mathematical knowledge, it will be difficult for you to compute with other things again. Okay, then time. Learners need time to do what now? The length of time of an event can be measured using the time, seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, and any event can be fixed in time. For example, the soccer match will start at 3 o'clock sharp. Also, school starts at 8:45. It's fixed. If school starts at 8:45, it's 8:45 every day. If it's 8 o'clock, it's fixed. That is a fixed time. They should be able to tell the difference between the fixed times as well. Okay, the kinds of time that learners relate time with, the personal experience. When I was a baby, they're talking about that time. Now I'm not a baby anymore, meaning that some times have passed. Then meaning I have grown from a baby to a boy, or to a young boy now. Social activity. This inform the daily routines and other activities that learners do. Unit 6, Concept and Operation for the Primary Grades. Collecting and organizing data. This is one of the part in our module that is so important. How do we use this unit in our classes, or how are we going to use it? Collection and organizing of data. There is a lot of information from the learners' everyday lives that can be used in the class. Do not just come to the school in the class and use your own examples. No, make it like an experiment, a research. Shoe sizes, favorite colors, favorite food. A lot of information that the learners will be able to give and be excited about giving such information. Numbers of brothers and sisters, aunts, uncles in their families, and so on. The height of the learners, the length, and so on. Number of glasses of water they drink per day, different types of animals that are kept at their home, the shoe sizes, and use that example. Let them come up with their own data. Don't give. Let them come up with their own data and present them in tally tables, bar chart, line graph, pictograph, and see how they are connected to each other. From a raw, just disorganized data to a well-presented and different ways that they presented the data. Then another thing is the misconception with decimals. The number after the decimal point is a fraction, part of the number. Many children find it difficult to understand that this number is less than 1. Numbers after the decimal point, they are smaller than 1. They are 0 point something. The children must be taught to read them as 2.35. This will correct the error that is often made by children when they read 2.35 as 2.35. The moment you let your learners read a whole after a decimal, then these learners will be making it difficult for them to differentiate between a small and a bigger number when it comes to decimals. Many learners also think that 0.28 is more or greater than 0.3 because they say that this is 28 here and this is 3. So then they think is 28 is more than 3 because the way they are reading it. Or maybe 7.54 is more than 7.6 because here they say 54 here, or they can say 3 digits here, 754, and there are only 2, 7 and 6, which is not correct. The longer the number is, the thought is to be the largest. Okay, then the way you can introduce them to decimals is by using money, place values, and the emphasis on the 0. Okay, practice more that one. Then we look at the issues of mathematics environment. What mathematical concept can be developed outside the class or on the playground? Counting, calculating, exchanging money, estimating, comparing, patterning, shapes, working with fractions, language, sequences. We know a lot of concepts that learners bring from the environment to the class. We just need to develop that further, because what they were doing, they were not so much aware that they are doing mathematics in one way. So then you should not make them aware that if you are playing and you divide an apple between 2 or 3 friends, you are doing fractions anyway. When you give money, you are doing mathematics. When you buy and get a change, you are doing mathematics. You just need to link that knowledge from outside to the class. And then what activities can parents get involved in helping their learners? Cooking, playing games, doing simple projects, finding materials to bring to school, painting and playing houses, and so on. Discourage parents to do things for their learners. If they are given a project, let them help, but not doing for them. Okay, let the learners learn. So I think that's something that you have to encourage the parents to do. Okay, and unit 8, the last unit, is about the issues in assessment. How do we assess in mathematics? Of course, we give tests, examination, quizzes, and so on. But assessment is a process of gathering evidence about learners' knowledge of an ability to use and disposition towards mathematics, and of making inference from that evidence for a variety of purposes. If you give a test, then 50% of the learners failed. What do you do with that result? In most cases, you just record and keep quiet. You just keep it. But how do you make use of that assessment? Does it help you to enhance how your students are learning, how the learners are learning? Does it help you to make constructing decision? Maybe my teaching was not effective. What is that I have to do? Okay, we know that we regularly assess our learners through the classwork, homework, test, and examination. But let the result we are getting from those assessments help us improve our teaching, help us to support the learners. Have a conversation with them. Why did you fail? Why did you get so low marks? But in the previous one you scored very well. What pushed you down? And so on, so that you hear from the learner. Maybe the learner is suffering from something, is going through something that you don't know. So then those are the reasons why we assess. We don't just assess for assessment purposes, to fill in that continuous assessment form, but let it be a reason why we are in the class. Let it be a direction in our teaching. We have summative assessment and formative assessment, and this is the difference. Formative, it's a planned process, checking learners' understanding during your instructional activities. Formative, the main role for this is just to discover success and failures. The way you ask those questions is it's a part of a formative assessment. the way you just give a classwork, instant classwork. It's a formative assessment. You want to see how your teaching is going on during your instruction, during the process of when you are in the class. Summative assessment, on the other hand, you accumulate. It's a cumulative evaluations now. Now you have given test as end of the examination, end of the term test, and so on. If you put those as results together, what type of information did it give about this overall performance of the learner? It generates a single cause that will determine whether this learner is excellent, good, average, or maybe below average. So then that is it. Summative assessment evaluation, in most cases, it gives, its purpose is to give a grade, to give a symbol, how many percent this learner scored in mathematics after a year of you and your learner in your class. Okay? Then the criteria when you are setting the task, you want to assess them. There should be balanced items, not too many questions. Remember, they are still young. They should be having a range of difficulty start from simple questions to the large one, to the difficult one. Check that the learners, the questions are the kind of the questions that they are used to. Check that the wording of the question is not ambiguous. Use clear, simple English. Set a test to fit the time suitable for the learners to write. It's always good to write a memorandum of your test before you give it to your learners. If your memorandum takes you 1 hour to complete, how can you give it 30 minutes for the learners to complete? That is really impossible. That's why before you give it to your learners, have a memorandum so that you see, I took 10 minutes to finish this. So then maybe my learners will take 25 minutes or maybe 30 minutes, okay? It continues, ask questions about things, not about unimportant. That should be fair enough. The number of marks should be be visible, and they should be fair to the judgment of the learners, okay? In conclusion, this subject, I call it, is a director of what needs to be done in our mathematics lesson. Okay, I wish you to apply all you have learned in what you are going to learn still in your module. Make sure that you study all the units. They are equally important, whether they are presented here or not. They are equally important for the examination. Please go through everything and avoid copying and pasting. That is dangerous, okay? So then use your own words, all right? I wish you all the best with your studies. Stay safe, and thank you very much.